Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Final Fantasy Randomizer community presentation on Randomania. Tonight, the Winter Double Anti-Bingo tournament continues with a round 5 matchup between 12th seed Dem0nfr0g and 8th seed GregglyPuff. These runners are battling their way back to a spot in the finals through a tough losers bracket that allows for no easy victories. I'm RockSolid84, joined in the booth by Luffy DV. And Luffy, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good, Rock Solid. We got two fantastic runners in Dem0nfr0g and GregglyPuff. Dem0nfr0g been battling his way back through the consolation bracket all the way here to a matchup with GregglyPuff, who was taken down by Fryteeth the other night in quite an exciting matchup with just some craziness going on. So I expect to see a lot more action tonight from these two runners, and I'm just looking forward to it.
Yeah, that was an incredible match. Both runners, of course, in Topher right at the very end. GregglyPuff only squeaking out the victory by, or squeaking out the loss, sorry, by just a few seconds. And going again with the red mage strats and picking up level 1 fade with a little bit of that blursing working out in his favor.
Yeah, interesting with the red mages having access to all of level 1 spells, and it just happens that Fade falls in a slot they could have learned anyway, so isn't that the way it always happens?
Yeah, well, you win some, you lose some. Look at this, though. Also Nuke at level 1, so the seed's definitely not holding back in terms of magic.
Agreed.
So other notable things here, we do have Chain +4, which is going to be really great armor for those red mages, and you see GregglyPuff stacking up on that. We saw gold bracelets, which were about 40k, a bit on the expensive side, but fortunately for Dem0nfr0g, they did roll down, so that will be available to both runners, even if they want to use that use-only blessed equipment tile.
Yep, I agree with that. GregglyPuff, our first runner into Topher here, gonna jump right into Garland, throw some fades at him. And Garland, we hardly knew you.
Yeah, so GregglyPuff instead taking a look, or sorry, Dem0nfr0g taking a look at some chests first, and definitely I understand that. It's good to get some resources early on. Sometimes just a few thousand early on can make a big difference in your whole seed.
Yeah, that's for sure. I love to check these first 3 chests right here in Topher, try to pick up a little spending cash, maybe find a sellable item of sorts. It's, you know, always nice to get a few spending bucks early on.
Yeah, so both runners, of course, are going to walk out of here with the key items, and we did see the ruby and the ship from the King and the Princess. So the ship, great mobility early on, and the ruby, also a nice one to have with these flags because it does allow for 2 key item checks as soon as you get outside of the inner sea. GregglyPuff now taking a minute to go over and check the pirates. This is another standard opening move. You get another incentive check here, and also the chance to buy level 2 magic, which is cheap enough that you can buy it, and with Randomizer, there could be just about anything there. And yes, thanks, Chad, for pointing out that we had 2 red players. That's now been fixed. Thank you, Luffy. Luffy pulling double duty tonight, folks. Definitely showing his chops as doing the restream and commentary at the same time. Something to be respected.
Yep, this is what happens when we have live TV sometimes, actually.
Yep. So GregglyPuff is the first one of the pirates. Probably going to throw out some fades here. I didn't see what was that level 2 magic, but already with the sweepers that they have, I mean, they're going to be able to blast through the first couple of checks pretty easily.
Yeah, I agree with that. Level 1 Fade, level 1 Nuke. They do have that column 3, row 2 of do not use Nuke tile, which is going to be favoring GregglyPuff just a little bit with those red mages, with the access to Fade. You hate to see that taking 2 black mages.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, Dem0nfr0g does have 1 red mage, so at least we'll have access to that spell. The black mages are good to have because there's other magic that can be really helpful, especially when you need to be defeating fiends with certain spells. And that's the situation that Dem0nfr0g is in. With the required column 3, he's going to have to find Quake and Bane and have to be able to cast them both. So I understand taking 2 black mages.
Mm-hmm. Alright, let's see if Demon can give us a peek here at level 2 magic. Lock 2, not bad to see, but
Yeah, it's not much to really write home about, but Lock 2 is helpful. We do have Life, though, Red Mage learnable, all of these spells will be, as well as Cure 3 at level 2 White, so those are both two good ones to have.
Yep, again, slight advantage to GregglyPuff in the early game anyway. I'm sure he'll switch to Tavern mode at some point to take one of those Red Mages and switch it out for a Black Belt or something, but for the time being, 3 Life Casters, 3 Fade Casters, pretty good.
Yeah, and GregglyPuff is really one to utilize the Tavern mode, and not a lot of, I would say not a lot of the people in this tournament are really utilizing to its fullest extent. Maybe some people might change their minds after seeing what Greggly's been doing with this. And speaking of the pub, we can switch to Red Mages, here in Provoca, so it's something that Dem0nfr0g could do depending on how the Black Magic rolls, but we haven't seen Quaker Bane yet.
Yeah, again, I think you're right there. Long game might favor Dem0nfr0g right now, having those 2 Black Mages with the guaranteed access at some point to Cake and Bane, because we do not know where they're going to land, but this is going to be interesting to see how the magic rolls. If those come at level 7 or 8, that could be a little sticky for Greggly.
Yeah, but keep in mind, I mean, the whole core of GregglyPuff strats here with this Tavern mode is that you can always switch to a Black Mage if you do need that. So why not start with something that's the most versatile, can kind of go in any directions, like a stem cell, you know, and then specialize as necessary. I really like it.
Well, the fact that Greggly's still playing and I was out weeks ago definitely speaks to his abilities, so I'll agree with you there.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. So Greggly now looks like he's about to do his Ruby checks. Dem0nfr0g kicking around in Provoca, probably going to follow in Greggly's footsteps. We get a very helpful hint there, as one of the NPCs tells us, press A to talk to NPCs. You know, that's the sort of tips you need to have when you're learning the game, right?
I mean, these are the informations we need answers to, so, you know.
Yeah, you know, especially when you're playing the game 30-odd years later and hacking it to bits. As GregglyPuff comes across some Gerwolves, we've got the fun enemy names turned on, and that's always a good time.
Yeah, it's one of the more underrated, you know, fun flag percentages that I like to see. I'm a big fan of multi-instrumental Sarah, and I'm a pretty big fan of Team Steak personally, but seeing the fun enemy names is always quite pleasant.
Yeah, well, it's starting to get confusing. I think with one of the new versions of the randomizer, the Ruby name's going to be randomized now too, as we see a ribbon and a pro ring and the canoe the Titan was holding on to all the goods.
Wow, okay. Pro ring +5 too, pretty juicy.
Yeah, well, it will be for Dem0nfr0g, who's allowed to use it. GregglyPuff can't, because GregglyPuff's only allowed to use Blessed. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the one he will be able to use. It's the ribbon that rolled down that GregglyPuff won't be allowed to use.
Although, looking at the blurses right now, Red Mages do not have access to a pro ring, so for the time being, that's just a pretty piece of gear he's going to be carrying around.
Good point, good point. Yes, I forgot about that. And Rube's pointing out in chat, yes, how are you supposed to know how to talk to an NPC unless you talk to an NPC? That's the philosophical side of this game. So not much at level 5, but notably we do have Bane there, and I think it was in slot 1, which I think means the Red Mage can cast it.
Alright, looks like Greggly's going to give us a peek at Elflin here, going along the south side, checking the south dock. I like this play, and then you can just scoot on over to Crescent Lake and stay on the outside instead of going back into the inner sea.
Yeah, for sure. Pretty much it's always going to be a good idea to get out of the inner sea unless you're thinking that you're going to get caught up in a bunch of the early quest chain checks, and there's not really any way to know that. So yeah, I'm usually going to do a similar thing as, oh, Greggly does the unthinkable and vendors the ribbon.
It wasn't even max gold. That kind of hurts.
No, definitely not. But it was a smart play for GregglyPuff. Can't use it.
Yep.
Can use all this money, though, and is going to stock up on items and be good for items for a while.
Only 660 gold for houses. That's pretty cheap. I like it.
Yep. Oh, I'm sorry. There's Bane at level 4. I must have saw something else at level 5.
I think it was Saber. Saber at level 5.
Okay, so GregglyPuff did pick it up on all 3 of his red mages, and that's going to be good because there's 3 Banecasters right there.
Hasn't showed us level 3 black. If that rolls cake, then Greggly's in a pretty good spot here as well.
I think we did see level... Oh, no, you're right, here in Provocus, or Elfland. I'm getting my names all mixed up. We see it now. We've got Lock, Ice 3, and Warp, all great spells, but not that cake we're looking for.
Alright, so one more pretty good check at Crescent Lake to see if cake rolls to these red mages somewhere friendly, because after promotion they'll get access, but until then, we did see black mages for hire here in Elfland, so Greggly also has that information. Exit level 3 as well, so level 3 and 4 magic pretty loaded here.
Yeah, definitely. You've got all the movement you need. You've got good sweepers. You've got Lock. I don't think we've seen Fast or Temper just yet. So, you know, pretty good black magic all around, though.
It looks like Greggly is just going to get this canoe from Elfland to Ice Cave out of the way real quick.
Yep, he's setting up the portage. Gonna go get her done as Dem0nfr0g is in the water. Looks like about to wrap around to Elfland as well. Demon is not obligated to do this canoe trick, so we may see some route divergence here.
So let's take a minute here real quick and talk about some of these rows for and columns that our runners have tonight. So Greggly's going to have 3 tiles lit up in his force column right now and 2 tiles lit up in column 3. If that's take 0 or 4 red mages, I think we could see him maybe going after column 3 and switching out these red mages for maybe 2 black mages and a black belt at some point. If you were Greggly, what would you be looking at as your second line here?
Well, my understanding of the rules is that GregglyPuff is not ever going to be able to do column 3 because he didn't start the game with 4 red mages. So you can't just switch to 4 and finish the game that way. That doesn't count. You've got to start and finish with that condition set. So if I'm GregglyPuff, well, I've got my obligated row all figured out. Column 5, oh, I'd be going for column 5. Sure. We've basically got 2 free tiles and successfully confused carry. The only wrinkle is we haven't seen confuse yet. How about